The question is control and hegemony over the Middle East, over the resources of that Middle East, and over the fact that the United States and Israel want to say the first and the last word in the Middle East. That's the question that we are dealing with in the Middle East, and we are dealing with regard to Iran.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've kind of had a problem on this show because the lies, well, just in general and writing and everything too, the lies from the American side about Iran's nuclear program are so consistent. I mean, the narrative just never ceases. Sometimes it ebbs and flows a little bit, but there's a constant drone in the background always, every news cycle, of the Iranian nuclear threat, and apparently everybody knows the Iranians are making nuclear weapons. So that means, of course, as you and I have talked about on the show, it means for me going through what we actually know about the Iranian nuclear program over and over again, and in essence, defending the Iranian position that, at least so far as anybody knows, it's simply a peaceful program. My problem is that if I lived in a country that was governed by a limited constitutional republic and didn't have fleet of aircraft carriers off the coast of Iran right now, etc., and troops occupying the countries to either side of it, I would like nothing better than to sit around on anti-war radio complaining about the Iranian government's war against the Iranian people and what a crappy dictatorship it must it is over there, and how horrible it must be to live under it. In fact, now that I live in Los Angeles, I keep meeting Iranians all the time who tell me about the Ayatollahs and how bad those guys are. And I don't carry any brief for these guys. I don't want to defend them. I'm just trying to defend the truth and prevent a war as best I can, because the assertions that the war agenda is based on are all a bunch of damn lies. But help me out here with this one, Mohammed. Can you tell me about the Ayatollah and what it is like to live in Iran?
Well, life in Iran right now is difficult. It is because Iranians voted on June 12 to elect a new president, and they voted in large numbers. Up to 85% of people voted because they wanted to make some good changes in Iran political system peacefully and without any violence. Now, the hardliners apparently stole the election and declared Ahmadinejad re-elected again. And that started basically a movement in Iran that has spread over the past several months, and it has become stronger. And in about a week, we will have the 31st anniversary of Iranian Revolution, which is celebrated every year by the government. But this year, the Green Movement is also going to go out and demonstrate and show its strength. Now, as you said, when we talk about Iran's nuclear program and problems like that, it is not that we support the Iranian government. I personally do not support and, in fact, despise people like Ahmadinejad. But we are talking about the national right of a country that has been no threat to the United States, that has abided largely by its obligation under international law regarding its nuclear program, that the International Atomic Energy Agency has never been able to find any evidence that is actually trying to make a nuclear weapon. And yet, as you said, the lie that Iran is making nuclear weapon has been repeated so many times that it has taken a life of its own, and it is taken as a fact. There is no truth to it. Iran hasn't made a nuclear weapon. There is no evidence that it is making a nuclear program. In fact, some documents about internal debates within the Obama administration was leaked a few weeks ago to the New York Times that indicated that the Obama administration believes that Iran does not have any breakout capability for at least 3 years. And let me explain what breakout capability is for those listeners that don't know what it is. That means that Iran does not have any capability at this point to convert its low-enriched uranium, which is fuel for nuclear reactor, to high-enriched uranium, which is used in nuclear weapon. And the Obama administration internal discussion indicated that they believe that Iran does not have such a capability for at least 3 years. So that means that at least for the next 3 years, Iran is in no position, even if it wanted to make a nuclear weapon. So that means that there is ample time, ample room for diplomacy. And yet, we see all sorts of talk about tough sanctions, which eventually lead to war, or even war itself. I mean, the other day, the United States announced that it's going to put anti-missile system in Arab Persian Gulf that facing Iran. Why is that? Why do they need such a defense system? What is the threat that they are facing? These are all a scare tactic, gunboat diplomacy, in order to pressure Iran to go along with what they want. And obviously, those guys in Iran, as crazy and as irrational they may be to their own people, that's their internal affairs. Iranian people can decide on their own what they should do with their own government. But when it comes to foreign power, the foreign powers have no right to exploit Iran's internal situation in order to advance their agenda, namely dominating Iran, interfering in Iran's internal affairs, and stopping Iran's peaceful nuclear program.
All right, and now there's one thing I wanted to add here, if only because I missed it when it was new, and I think I found this link from Think Progress and their article about the pressure on the National Intelligence Council to come up with a new national intelligence estimate, which would be more in line with the Israeli position on Iran's development of a nuclear weapon. But this one is from Voice of America. U.S. Defense Spy Chief, Iran undecided on nuclear bomb. This is from January 12th of 2010. It says, in an exclusive VOA interview, the Pentagon's top intelligence official says there's no evidence that Iran has made a final decision to build nuclear weapons. But the chief of the DIA adds that much about Iran's inner workings remain murky. Lieutenant General Ronald Burgess said the key finding that Iran has not yet committed itself to nuclear weapons, contained in a controversial 2007 National Intelligence Estimate, NIE, is still valid. Quote, the bottom line assessments of the NIE still hold true, he said. So this is in line with what Director of National Intelligence Dennis Blair told Carl Levin and John McCain under sworn oath approximately a year ago, and this is also in line with Mark Hosenball's report from, I think it was late September, early October, that the CIA had recently put papers on Barack Obama's desk saying the same thing, that and in fact saying also that despite pressure from the Israelis and the Germans and a internal argument between these intelligence agencies, the CIA was sticking by their guns and saying that there is no evidence that the Iranians are making nuclear weapons or that they've even made the choice to do so. And yet there is a new NIE, according to Newsweek, coming around on Iran, again by Mark Hosenball, this one from January 15th, saying that the pressure is on to abandon that official intelligence position and pick up the narrative where, William Crystal left it, Mohammed.
And let me add to what you said. The IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, has reported over the past several months that Iran's uranium enrichment program has in fact slowed down. Iran is producing less low-enriched uranium than in the past. Iran is spinning fewer centrifuges at Natanz, and Iran has not moved any closer to be able to convert its low-enriched uranium to high-enriched uranium. Remember, Iran needs uranium enriched at 20% for its research reactor in Tehran, which it uses for medical purposes to generate isotopes and so on. If Iran cannot convert its low-enriched uranium at 3.5% to about 20% for its medical reactor, why is that anybody believe that Iran can actually go from 3.5% to 90%, which is needed for a nuclear weapon? Iran is negotiating with the outside world in order to import the 20% enriched uranium for its medical research program.
Right, which, by the way, is, of course, the key of the poison pill in Obama's promise to negotiate honestly with the Iranians is that they have to export their uranium and wait to get it back and leave it in the hands and trust the French to give it back to them rather than just having a swap meeting in Turkey and swapping equal amounts for 20%, which again, as you just said, you still can't make a bomb out of. It's, from my position anyway, it sure seems to me like the Iranian counteroffer is perfectly reasonable, but, this is really not much different than the Cheney stand, which was we won't talk with you at all. The Obama stand is we'll talk to you and give you our list of demands, and that will be the extent of our negotiations. It sure seems like.